As the brochure says, I'm Ambassador Terry Earthwind Nichols. Earthwind is my tribal name. I'm a Native American man. I want to have an exercise with us here, first thing, because we're having so much fun these last couple of days with exercises. I'd like everybody to just focus on themselves for just a moment and take a nice, deep yawn. Okay, now we got the yawn out of the way, let's have the presentation. Okay, so repetitive behavior in my research over the last decade stems from the understanding of a thought or a behavior that repeats itself unconsciously. You get that song in your head in the first of the morning, and it stays with you all day. There's a reason for that. And I'd like you all to think about, let's go to New Year's Eve. For a definition of repetitive behaviors, how many people here have made a New Year's resolution? Huh? A New Year's resolution. Now keep your hands up. How many of you broke it within 24 hours? Okay? Then next year comes and you do it again, right? That's a repetitive behavior because you're repeating yourself, okay? Without the subconscious intent to finish what your plan is or whatever it is. For me, I used to be about this big, so weight loss was a big deal for me. Smoking was a big deal for me. I stopped, I don't know how many hundreds of times trying to stop smoking. And I tried probably every diet there is out there until one day I made a conscious decision for myself. I'm not going to smoke anymore. And I threw away my cigarettes, my lighter, and I never touched them again. I made a conscious decision that I am a nicotine addict and I have to focus on that. And because when I get to focus on myself, everything around me changes. The dynamic of energy around me changes. And I found that I didn't need to go on a diet. I just had to eat right. And I made those decisions with a conscious effort. In that, I get to lose this weight because I don't have to do this weight. Now, there's a video that I did with my business partner on YouTube called Have To versus Get To. Here's a quick scenario. I have to get up tomorrow by 6:15, get the kids ready, get them to the bus in time for me to get downtown and make the presentation of my life. And I know those kids are not going to be ready. I know that I'm going to be late and it's going to turn into the worst presentation of my life. Now let's switch that. I get to get up in the morning. I'm going to beat the alarm clock and I'm going to get the kids up. We're going to have some fun while we get up so that they're encouraged to get dressed, get ready, get their breakfast, get their lunches, and be at the bus stop outside way early so I can get on the road 5 minutes earlier than I wanted to and beat the traffic, and I'm going to make the presentation of my life. Do you see the difference? Have to versus get to. It's very powerful. Changes your dynamic. And it starts with self. Because there's a Native American teaching that says you cannot give what you do not have. And so you can't give love if you don't have love, okay? You can't give a 5 peso note or a 5 euro note to somebody if you don't have one, okay? So starting with self is not selfish. We've heard that already from the wonderful speakers that spoke yesterday. I was very encouraged by them. They really put out some great information. First, you must possess. And it's not selfish, because when you have peace inside and you are sending that peace out to the people around you, they begin to send it to other people and other people. And pretty soon, other people that you didn't have any contact with are sending that very peace right back to you. But there's a lot of them this time. It's not just the person in front of you. There's a whole lot of people sending that pass. And so what you give out shall return to you in multitude. Okay? Now, I'd like to say presence is the point where manifestation becomes action. Now, what do I mean by that? If you take away the anxiety of your past, stop that. And you take the fear of the future away, all you have is right here, right now. And whatever it is that you are focusing your efforts on, or your thinking, whatever it is right there in front of you starts to come to light, make manifest, okay? Presence is the point where manifestation becomes action. Now, what does that have to do with repetitive behavior in human beings? Well, I've been researching this and developing and have trademarked repetitive behavior cellular regression. Regression. And to demonstrate how we work with the mind and memories with our clients, I have a piece of bread here. So everybody, can you think of a time when you smelled fresh baked bread? Immediately you smell it. May not have a place where that bread was at, a bakery or wherever, but you remember that smell immediately. Smell is the number one sense of the five senses for memory recall. So in our research, we found that if we take a person to the first of three memories, and when they get there, we preface the memory with, there are no bad memories, there are no good memories, they're simply memories. And how we react to them is up to us, okay? So what that does is that sets up the subconscious to receive whatever memory comes to mind. So now there's no good memories, there's no bad memories. Think of a memory, each of you right now, think of a memory that you remember often with friends and family. It's not necessarily good or bad, but it's easily recalled and it's easily spoken of within your group or your friends or your family or whatever. Now here's the change. In normal psychotherapeutic practices, you talk about what's going on there, the motion of the memory, the emotions of the memory. What does that bring up for you? How do you think about that? This time we're not going to do that. I'd like you to think of one of those memories that you love talking about with your family for just a moment. And when you bring that memory up, this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to freeze frame the memory into a photograph. Now, if that photograph doesn't move, only you can move the photograph, but the photograph itself does not move. There's no motion. If there's no motion in a memory, there's no emotion in a memory. And if there's no emotion in a memory, there's no ego asking questions. So that point of presence is connected, okay? Now, when we review a memory of a photograph, we can then inventory that photograph using the five senses, okay? We don't care about who's there. We want to know what you smell, one thing at a time. Now, it's very easy. It's an inventory. If you're, I like to use, sitting on the end of a dock on a lake, there's certain things that I, as a practitioner, would expect my client to smell, okay? If they don't smell any of those, that's a key indicator that we'll talk about in a minute. Because there's missing, odd, or can't remember information are part of a blocking system that is holding the person back and is keeping them in their repetitive behaviors. Now, and we go through the five senses one at a time in a specific order, okay? And when we do that, it keeps a person present, fully out of emotion. I'll give you an excellent example. One night I received a phone call from a veteran, a U.S. veteran, and he asked me who my name was, and do you do that repetitive thing? And I go, yes. And he says, I have a locked and loaded Glock at my head right now. And if you can't help me, I'm doing myself. I said, okay, fair enough. I'm also a veteran. And I would like you to do something for me right now. I'd like you to disengage the magazine, remove the chambered shell, Put those on the floor beside you. Then take the weapon and put it on the floor on the other side of you. Pick them up whenever you want to. But I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to pick that weapon up. And we'll start the repetitive behavior cellular regression system, which lasts about 3 hours, right now. Get on, don't hang up, get on your computer and connect with me. In those days we used Skype. Connect with me on Skype so we can see each other. We will have a personal connection. We will not have an in-person connection, okay? If you've ever talked to somebody about something that's very dear and very personal to you, even if you have your eyes closed, you can sense that person in the room. However, if they're on a computer screen, there's that disconnect. They're still there, you still acknowledge them, but you're not interconnecting and double thinking the thoughts and how your responses would be, okay, according to what they should hear. It keeps you in presence. Presence is a point where manifestation becomes action, right? So after we go through the first of 3 memories, we then take them further back in time, anywhere they want to go, to another memory based on whichever of the 5 senses I decide I want them to identify with as soon as they get to the memory and make it a photograph. That is determined by how much detail they put in that sense in the first memory. You would think that sight would be quite a bit of information. It usually is. But sometimes hearing, they get into 10, 12 different things they hear in the memory. There's something there for that, particularly if there's more hearing than there is sight. And sometimes it's taste, okay? And sometimes it's not taste. They're at a carnival, they have cotton candy. Does everybody know what cotton candy is? Okay. And they have cotton candy in their hand, but they don't taste cotton candy, and they're 10 years old. Something's wrong. So in this case, it was something that should have been, that wasn't, that drove me to key on that in the next memory. Now, let's say that it was taste. There is a sequence that we use in the 5 senses. We go to taste, skipping the first ones, and finish the sequence, and then come back to smell and start the sequence again until we get back to taste. So we get through the whole 9 questions. Whoops, wait a minute. There's 5 senses and he just asked 9 questions. There's a reason, okay? We have found that when we're looking for an amnesic event in early childhood, there is a deflection system there. And sometimes the subconscious will give us clues of a person or persons that are key to this situation, this emotional situation happening to him as a child. And so we ask them, now, what is above you, whatever that could be. If you're sitting on a park bench outside, you're going to get sky in there, maybe. Maybe it's clouds and the sun, and then it's clouds and it's the sun, and then there's a bird, and then there's 2 birds, but there's no sky. Why is there no sky? Everything but sky comes up in that situation. So then we found that we want to know what's below you, okay? In the memory, you're sitting on the floor in the living room, and I asked the question, what's below you? And you see dirt. We skipped a floor. We skipped a basement probably. We went straight to dirt. There's an indicator there, okay? So that is another thing that we add into it. We also take seeing, sense of seeing, to another level. Please tell me in no particular order what you see in the memory right now. No particular order, okay? Let's say we're in the living room sitting on the floor, okay? There's a high possibility of a television. There's a high possibility of a chair, a door, the kitchen, whatever it is. And so we want to know what you see in no particular order, because the next question is, now I'd like you to start with your left shoulder as if it was the 9 o'clock position on a clock. And I want you to tell me everything you see by number across the clock, all the way around you, one thing at a time. Okay? That tells us something else that's of significance. The person sitting on the floor in the living room should be expected to see a window, a door, maybe there's a floor, a carpet, another person. There's certain things that they should see there that maybe they don't. Or they only tell you about what they see in their immediate area around them, okay? And not the other side of the room. That's missing odd and can't be remembered information. And all of that information will lead us down a path to the end of the third memory. We take them back to an estimated time frame for the memory. We choose the time frame, they choose the memory. Because what's happened now is they've fully connected a new neural pathway back to the back of the brain where the senses are. Okay? We're not coming in from the prefrontal cortex and working back like normal psychotherapeutic practices do. We don't come in from the sides like EMDR and NLP and some of those modalities. We are working from the back of the brain forward. Now, when a significant emotional event or of any kind happens to you and you shut it out, like a young man, a kid, 6 years old, witnesses his mom and dad being murdered in their home, okay? And the next day, he has no memory of the event occurring at all. And he doesn't even know his mom and dad are missing, okay? That's amnesia. Amnesia is a protection device. You're not broken, you're being protected. So what has happened is that neural pathway back to that memory and the area around it has now been cut off by amnesia. So it's blocked off. We call that the active block. Now what happens later on in life, every time another emotional event occurs, that amnesia, that block, takes that information and deflects it away from where that person is right now. So it's held on, but it is not allowed back into that part of the brain where it's protecting. And a 6-year-old is pretty smart, okay? So by the time you're 6 years old, if this happened to you when you're 3 to 6 months old, maybe a year, that whatever the emotional situation happened to you, when you kick into gear and that 6-year-old mind starts flipping stuff back and forth, the amnesia learns that as well. And it uses that as a device to continue to be better at deflecting and keeping you protected from that memory that you don't want to remember. So when somebody is suffering from PTSD. PTSD can be anything, okay? There's some, I could go on and on with what kind of situations could happen, but post-traumatic stress, I don't like to use the D word. I like response, PTSR. So post-traumatic response, I think, is a little bit better than the other word. And we all know that when our clients that we're working with, perhaps ourselves, are engaged in something and they get into a triggered event, immediately they go to the event that they think about on a regular basis. A military man could be a firefight situation that they're trying to get rid of from years ago. That's true in veterans today, but it's also true in medical personnel. COVID, the outbreak and the future of PTSD is going to be rampant in the next few years in the medical and health care communities for what they went through the COVID. Those nurses working 20 hours a day without all the stuff that they need, people dying, they can't help them, and all they can do is just witness this horror. Well, that's a post-traumatic response that's on its way to happen. And in most cases, it's going to happen. The suicide rate, you're all probably aware of, has went up in the healthcare industry since COVID has began. And it's going to continue for a little while. Like after major wars, after World War II, the suicide rate of military people for the first 10 years or to 15 years after a major conflict, we get a spike in suicides. They can't handle being a civilian. They can't handle not being in war. They don't know why, and they don't know how to fix it. And when they go to a doctor, they don't know how to fix it either. God bless all of the people who work in psychotherapy. They're doing what they think is right based on what they've learned. Sometimes that can cause issues. They think they're too right, and they're not willing to look at other avenues that can make their job easier and maybe fix them. Most of the people that I've known over the years that have went into the psychotherapeutic practices, they were dealing with something themselves. And they want to fix it. They want help to fix it, so they're going to learn everything that they can to fix themselves. And while they're at it, they're going to help some other people. So post-traumatic response is this triggering device that, once triggered, you can't shut it off. It's there, it repeats over and over and over again, and it won't stop. Now, with repetitive behavior cellular regression, we're not hitting that wall like is happening with the PTSD, okay? We are going down a side street and coming in the back door of a memory that that person has not been in since it happened. And it was a significant emotional response to something they either witnessed, perhaps an assault on themselves, that does occur. A lot of times they are a victim of an innocent situation. One of my clients, for instance, I was just talking about it earlier, one of my clients was a young child sitting on the front porch of their home with the parents playing, and the child looked up and at the street right in front of them witnessed a dog being run over. And it was a significant emotional event for them. They didn't know how to work through that. They did not have the language skills to turn around and tell mom and dad. All she did was cry. Well, what do you do with a child that's crying? Oh, what's the matter? Pick her up, put her over your heart, and calm her down. Because the child can't tell you that witnessing that dog being run over out on the street was more than she could handle emotionally. Now, a day or two later, doesn't matter how many days, when the amnesia clicks in to start protecting you from remembering that, when she come in through the back of her memory, in the back of her mind, she was sitting right there on the porch looking at the car. She knew what color it was. She knew what the face of the driver looked like, as if it was 5 minutes ago. And she was 36 years old. Memories, when you bring them back, can be quite vivid, okay? The most important part was she now has an opportunity to neutralize this event, okay? How do we do that? Well, we get to let them say anything she wants to that driver. Use any cuss words they want, whatever they're comfortable with. They just can't stand, pick up stuff and throw it, or physically move around. They get to sit in their chair. But they get to look at the face of the person that was responsible for this event and tell them everything that has caused in their life all of this strain, the stress, the failed marriages, everything came from you irresponsibly running over a dog. Accidentally or otherwise, doesn't matter. To this child, that dog was run over and it was you. Okay? That is key. Now, once they've stopped thinking of whatever it is that they want to say to this person, we have a statement that we give to this person. Okay? We may not know the name of the driver of this car, and it's not important. Okay? We do name them, we identify them as, okay, driver of the car, listen carefully. Driver of the car, I love you and I forgive you, so I can love me and forgive me. Okay? We love other human beings for them. We are not attached to whatever it is that they're dealing with in their life. I love you and I forgive you for what you just did, so I can love me and forgive me of all of this stress, all of the pain that has happened to me in my life to this day. And once that happens, a lot of times the person is not quite ready to stop saying whatever they want to that person. They just stop for a minute because they thought it was taking too long or whatever. What will happen is they take that 9-word sequence and they can't repeat it exactly. The key to the neutralization is being able to say, I love you and I forgive you, so I can love me and forgive me exactly that way. And it is, in our research, we have proved consistently that they are no longer now attached to that memory. The memory is there, it's valid, and it has no response emotionally. It does not trigger repetitive things that happen later on in their life of high emotional value. A person getting raped or beat, or the Army guy that was in the firefight who couldn't get out of it, the Vietnam vet who couldn't get out of Vietnam. He left it physically, but never left it emotionally. Now they can, because the connection to that future memory is now disengaged. The protection device is neutralized. And therefore, they immediately have this profound sense of inner peace. You can just see them go. Relax, okay? And what you witness as a practitioner in their face, they lose about 10 years on their face. For us older people, that's kind of nice. And for other people, they seem to lose a lot of weight in their face and their upper body. Hasn't gone anywhere, but they've released all that stress that is associated with their muscles, and they've all relaxed, okay? So once this happens, we want them to think about different things in their life and how it's working. So we have developed a email journaling system, okay? For 7 days, starting the next morning, very first thing in the morning, we have them journal 3 to 5 sentences about what they thought about the previous 24 hours. Without editing it, without rethinking it, without stopping and thinking it through first, they just type. Whatever their fingers do, whatever misspelled words are there, they just type. It's another physical, emotional release from the previous 24 hours. Then they stop without reading it and send it to themselves. 2 or 3 hours later, they open the email to themselves, read it, no analyzing, no rewrites or anything like that, just reading it to reflect what they said earlier, and then go on with their day. Day 2 of the 7, they take day 1's email and they now forward it to themselves, type day 2 down in the contents, and repeat day 1. 2 or 3 sentences. Here's what I thought about yesterday. That guy's still an asshole, whatever it is. And then stop. Sometimes they don't put a period. That indicates something too. A period says, I'm done. No period means I'm not done thinking, but I'm done typing. Okay? So that's an incomplete there, so to speak. They don't get graded on it. That's teaching. But it's as important. 3 hours later, they open the email and read it again and put it away for the day. At the end of 7 days, we talk to them for an hour about what they wrote for 7 days. Okay? 30 days, it takes 30 days for the human mind to set a new habit. Okay? So the repetitive behavior cellular regression process, VIP experience, is 30 days. At day 8, we review the 7 days of emails. At day 15, who are you? You're a new person. You're the original person you started out as. What's that look like? Are you a teacher that now wants to be a scuba teacher, or do you want to go skydiving, or whatever it is? Who are you? So we talk about that for a minute. For our entrepreneurs, anybody here is an entrepreneur? Absolutely. We talk about what business looks like now. Do you want to keep your business? Do you want to change it? Or do you want to move forward with your business with a new eye on who you are and who you're serving or selling to? And then 2 weeks later, you get an extra week off. 2 weeks later, the day 30 call, we as practitioners say almost nothing in that hour-long conversation. We let the client talk about the entire process for 1 hour. And that is repetitive behavior cellular regression. I'm Ambassador Terry Earthwind Nichols of Evolutionary Healer LLC. Now, one of the things that I just want to briefly say is I have a free ebook back there at the back of the room on a QR code. Feel free to scan that. That'll take you to Amazon to my author page, and the free ebook is there, plus my other 10 books are there as well. Something might bring your attention. And there's another QR code back there. Maybe one or more of you want to have a personal conversation with me about what I said today and what that could mean to you in your practice or just in your personal life. There's a QR code back there as well that goes directly to my scheduling link for a 30-minute Zoom call sometime in the next few weeks. The calendar on the Zoom schedule is 9 weeks out, so don't worry about the weeks, how busy you are after this meeting. So that's what we have, Evolutionary Healer. We're changing and saving lives every day. And thank you very much for listening to me today.